Hi everyone, thanks for joining me watching In Deep on the Delta. This is the weekly Delta fishing report for the week of August 4th. So let's get right into water conditions. We'll talk a little bit about stripers today, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've been seeing out here that have been trends, not only this year but the last couple years. And for you guys that have been out, on the river quite a bit, I want you to hit me up with some comments and let me know if you've also seen these trends that I'm seeing. Anyhow, river conditions are the same they were last week. Central Delta 80 to 84 degree water temps and about 5 feet of visibility. Out towards Liberty Island, between there, all the inlets or sloughs coming off of the Sacramento down to Rio Vista, water temperatures are probably 78, somewhere in there. So fishing conditions are favorable. I talked to Alan Fong. He has been fishing all the tributaries up north and doing very well. He has been punching the last few weeks and getting some nice fish. So if you're up in the Sacramento area, you don't feel like moving all the way down to the Central Delta to fish. You got a half a day to fish or something. Fishing up around Rio Vista and up that way is very good. I'd also like to talk about stripers, and I apologize, I haven't been covering them enough. They are still on a bite. I've got friends that are going out, especially around Liberty. They're catching some nice 8 to 12 pound fish. They're not in big numbers, but they're out there, and there's plenty of fish to be caught, and the guys are having a good time. So I'm thinking that this fall, it's going to be a heck of a striper run. There are a ton of fish out in the bay. My son Nate has been fishing, Grizzly Island area, Napa River, the Carquinez Straits, Pittsburgh, in there. There's a ton of fish in there. There's a ton of bait in the Delta. So when these water temperatures start to drop and these fish start making their migration, I think it's going to be a heck of a striper season this year. You also, if you've been out here, you've noticed just the crime scene that's gone on the last month or so with these juvenile stripers out here, just feasting on the shad. Plenty of shad out here, lots of juvenile fish. So the stripers, at least today, look like they're in good shape, and man, let's see what happens this fall. With that, we'll get into the Central Delta. One tournament, the UFC The Frog Challenge, was last week. Saturday was a heck of a good day to fish. Everyone that sent in reports, when I got the good reports, it seemed like most of the people were out fishing Saturday. The UFC, they had, I think, 160 boats somewhere out. A lot of guys out. Everybody seemed to catch fish, and just a lot of fish were being caught in that 5 to 7 pound class. They were all on frogs. So that's telling you one thing, that the fish are on frogs, and that's something that you should probably have along with a punch setup every day that you come out on the Delta for now, until we get into the winter type fishing. So with that being said, I want to talk about one thing that I've been seeing, and I'm going to show you two fish. And the first fish we're going to poke up here is Michael. Michael went out, and both of these fish that I'll show you, these pictures, were caught this week. Michael's fish looked like it was about 28 inches long, and it was right at 7 pounds. We're going to call it 7 pounds. Thin, tails all beat up. This fish just spawned. The next fish we're going to pull up, I wish I had the angler's name, but I can tell you he is a friend of Luke's. Luke sent the picture and said his friend caught this fish, so Luke's friend got a 10 plus fish, 10 and some change. Two fish out of the same body of water, caught the same week. One of them looks like it just dropped its eggs. The other one looked like it may have dropped its eggs 2 months ago and already has recovered and gained back its weight, or her weight. So what I've been seeing happening is, it used to be February, March, April, May. That was the prime spawning months. Everybody would see the fish in the shallows. They'd start, head hunting for these fish. They're still coming in, but these fish that are coming in early, number one, I don't think all of them spawn. I think some of them false spawn. They come in, they have too much water clarity. They're not used to it. There's too much boat traffic for whatever reason. There's a few of them that spawn, do their thing, and that's historically what's happened. I think a lot of the fish go back offshore and they start coming in later in the year. Now, instead of late February, March, April, and May, we're talking about May, June, July, and August are prime spawning months. And the reason being is because the water clarity out here has gotten so much better that these fish are spawning deeper. And the fish that spawn deeper seem to be having more productive spawning. So you guys that are out here, hit me up with a comment and tell me if you think I'm off base or what. I know the last few weeks I've seen, this week I'm seeing fry that are a ½ an inch. I'm seeing some of my partners out here that are out here quite a bit saying they're starting to see fry. They're in bigger balls, there's more of them, and I think the last month or two we've had much more productive spawning than I've seen earlier in the year. And I was looking out around some of these spots today, and I'm seeing some fish, some bass up to about 3 inches long, and some of them just a ½ an inch. So that's telling you that these fish are having a long, drawn-out spawn, and that could tell us why the fishing is up and down through the course of the early summer and into midsummer. It used to be when all the fish seemed to spawn in a month or two, all of the females would go on a post spawn, and then when they came out of that post spawn, there'd be a real big bite and everybody started catching big fish, and it was just a great time to fish. Well, what's happening now is all of the females, because they're spawning at different times, are not recovering at the same time. They're recovering at different times. So although we can come out here and everybody can catch the rats and the fry garters, and it's pretty consistent throughout the year, throughout the early summer and summer months, the bigger fish, they're coming in waves as they spawn. So think about that, and it really coincides with what's been going on out here for the last few months. Everybody's catching fish. The guys that are complaining that they're not getting the bigger fish, and that part of that, the reason is all the bigger fish aren't available all at the same time. So it's kind of a slow burn. So think about that. Another thing that I've seen, and it has nothing to do with, it could just be BS that I'm thinking, but I've been out, and I notice on the days that it takes me a long time to clean my boat, I don't have good fishing. When I come in and there's hardly any scum line on my boat and I just wipe it down, I think back and, God, I had a pretty good day of fishing. And this is what I'm thinking. I've been moving around a whole lot. When I have that scum line, that's been telling me that I'm in the backs of sloughs, I'm in places where the water's not moving as much, and I get the scum line, not catching as many fish. When I fish out towards the channel or the bigger sloughs, Middle River, Old River, Latham Slough, places that have more water flow, I don't have to clean the boat up. When I'm cleaning my boat, I'm thinking today was a pretty darn good day. So that kind of hit, a light bulb came on my head, and I started thinking, you know what, I need to be fishing more of the cleaner moving water. Now that doesn't mean you change your techniques. If I'm in the back of the slough and I'm punching and I'm getting 1 fish per hour, that might mean if I can move out to clearer water, I still punch, I'm still looking for the same kind of water, just in cleaner water, maybe I'll get 2 or 3 fish per hour. So think about that. Let me know if that might ring a bell in your, over the course of your last few trips, if you've noticed that. All right, everybody seems to be getting fish. It's across the board on what they're catching them on. I think one thing you should always be throwing in the morning is top water, and you should also have a frog on all day and a punch rig all day. After that, you're fishing the water that's in front of you. A lot of people are catching fish on worms and drop shot. Both of those big fish that we talked about, that I showed you pictures of, those were both caught on worms. Drop shot with margarita mutilator, plum colors, red and black. Those are the colors, Morning Dawn. That seems to be better with the robo-style worms, and still sticking with green pumpkin is doing well with the stick type of worms like the Cincos. Chatterbaits are catching fish, not as much the last couple weeks on crankbaits. People have switched over to chatterbaits more. I have been throwing a lot of big wake baits, trying to look for that big bite and hit a home run. And a couple weeks ago, I was getting pretty consistent bites on the bigger baits. The last week or so, boy, those big baits have really tailed off. And also, I can say that the morning bite and the evening bite have just been okay. If you're coming from out of the area, you don't have to get up at 3 in the morning to hit that morning bite. It's just too inconsistent and it's too short when it happens. My suggestion would be to fish the afternoon and then fish into the evening. You will find a good evening bite, although it may be slow. They've also started picking up on faster moving baits in the evening and the mornings, meaning that a lot of guys are fishing whopper ploppers and buzz baits. Start to throw those in your mix. They're also hitting poppers. I told you I was fishing bigger baits, and I've been throwing some big 5 and 6 inch poppers. They're not getting hit, but when I move down to the bubble walkers, you know, and pop-bars and things that are 2 to 3 inches, they start getting hit, and I've noticed a real preference in that in the evening. They just don't want to go after those big baits, and it could be because a lot of the females that have spawned in the last week to 2 or 3 weeks, they haven't recovered yet, and those fish will be biting, and they'll start hitting these bigger baits soon, and I'm going to have a big fish to show you hopefully in the next week or two. But anyhow, the other thing that has been very consistent as far as people sending me in reports, they're saying that their bites are either at high outgo. As soon as the tide starts moving, the fish start getting active, but as the tide starts flowing, it drops off. Same thing with the low tide. A lot of people are catching fish at low tide, which is a little unusual out here because usually nobody likes to fish low tide. They're fishing low tide on the outside of weed beds, and as that tide bottoms out, as soon as it starts coming in, you've got about an hour to fish, and that really perks up a bite. So think about that high outgo and low incoming tide the first hour or so. You want to be ready to fish that time period. Also, start thinking more and more about lunar phases and lunar activities. When you have moon rises and moon set during the course of the day, make sure you are fishing those times and putting in your time on the A spots during those lunar periods. So, with that, I hope that helps some of you guys. I did a video on bass fishing patterns last week. You should check that out if you haven't. And also I'm going to do another video on something that doesn't get talked a whole lot about, and it's the angle of retrieve, that you're retrieving your bait from either the bank or a target back to your boat, and that is really important. So be on the lookout for that one. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, and hey, see you guys on the water this week, and hopefully I'll see you at the report next week. Bye-bye.